Hello everyone. Thank you very much everyone for joining us today for the Apprenticeship and You event at the Germanic-American Institute. And thanks a lot to everyone making today's event happen. My name is Philipp Burchardt. I'm the treasurer at the GEI and part of the executive committee of the board of directors. Outside of my work at the GEI, I work for Allianz Life Insurance Company in Golden Valley. As you might be able to hear from my accent, I'm actually a German native and grew up in Germany with many family members and friends participating in Germany's dual education system or model. And so the next slide, you will hear a little bit more from me speaking rather from the German perspective. And afterwards, Gina will give a little bit more insight and put it in the US context, and then we will have several other speakers joining us and giving more hands-on experience and like some further insights. So, as you might have learned on our website and on other sources, the GI is an official apprenticeship ambassador for the US State Department, and we are hosting this event today in part and in fulfillment of that responsibility. And that said, there's a joint declaration between the United States and Germany from February 25th, 2019, which involves that we facilitate cooperation in supporting international initiatives and shared lessons related to apprenticeship, youth employment, and the future of work, relevant to global initiatives and further efforts to advance women's economic empowerment. Maybe a few points from my side for Germany's dual education model. As some of you might know, in Germany we have the primary and the secondary school, and then the graduates can either end school after 9th grade, after 10th grade, or after 13th grade. It might differ a little bit from state to state. Some states might have 12th grade as a final grade. And then afterwards, they can start their apprenticeship, which means that can be in between ages of 15 and 21 years old. Nearly 60% of youth in Germany and Switzerland begin their career with an apprenticeship. And typical questions that might arise here is like, how do apprenticeship and companies find each other? And I believe that Patrick, I don't know where he's sitting, he will probably give a little bit more light on that, like how Bühler's approaches, like in finding the appropriate candidates and to find the right people. And many students are now opting to complete nowadays the 12th and 13th grade rather than the 9th or 10th grade. But still complete the apprenticeship prior of going to university. We have also Christoph here today, if you can wave real quick. He also did the apprenticeship back in Germany, followed by the university program afterwards. So what does dual education actually mean? So dual education means that it's a combination of classroom learning and also job training for specific skills that the industry or the respective industry requires. We see that increasingly more young people go on for a university degree after the apprenticeship, as mentioned by me before. But what does the dual education model mean for the apprentices? That means basically they are hired by the company as an employee. They will receive paid on-the-job training 2 to 3 days per week. That might differ a little bit from company to company. They will attend a state vocational school for the classroom learning component. And most importantly, there's no tuition and no debt. So if there is any tuition that has to be paid, it's usually that the company or the firm covers that. Last but not least, and probably most importantly, they will earn a competency-based associate's degree, which will help them in their further career. Maybe another question that might arise when talking about this dual education problem is like, how how does the employer and the potential apprenticeship find each other? or how the apprenticeship are hired. There's several different approaches to that. We will learn that today from Bühler. We might learn that also from the other companies that are presenting, and so that's going to be an interesting point for you to see here. The apprenticeship is not limited to the usual blue-collar trades, but is rather offered for a broad range of professions in over 350 industries. And as you can see in the slides, this involves various different fields: banking and finance, administration, office management, IT and technology, up to public and civil service, marketing, communication. So it's a very broad range. And if I remember from one event that I attended where Patrick was also talking a little bit more about the Swiss model, I think in Switzerland there's actually 70% of the apprentices are working in non-manufacturing environment, which is quite an impressive number. This leads us to the benefit of the apprenticeship program for the employees. So as I mentioned before, we have debt-free education while earning a wage, and often this also includes additional benefits. They will master in-demand skills and a career pathway to a high-paying job. This is nationally and often internationally recognized credentials. Also, if I remember correctly from Bühler, the program that Bühler offers is also accredited in, at least in Switzerland, and probably also in other German-speaking countries, because they have very similar apprenticeship models. Which benefits of the apprenticeship are provided to the employers? So for the employers, they are able to build and shape their own workforce. They have improved productivity due to the skilled labor and labor that is tailored to the requirements of the respective company. They highly reduce the employee turnover. There's a lot of stats that work in this direction. And also the median estimate of the employer's return on investment is particularly high for everybody that attended these apprenticeship programs. So that is it for my part right now. And now I will hand over to Gina, and she will give a little bit more context for the United States. Thanks.
Thanks, Philip. So I'm Gina Anderson. I'm the executive director. I wear a lot of hats when talking about apprenticeship. The ED here. I'm also a mom of a 13-year-old who's starting high school next year, and all the stress that comes with what comes after high school. I'm also a former high school teacher. I taught German, and I saw how the whole college for all model is really failing kids and families in this country. So it's why I've really embraced the model. It's a sort of a personal passion of mine. And I'm really excited to report how the trend is growing in the US, and I have some, especially here in Minnesota. Since 2014, so the federal government has been tracking this for about 10 years now, and we've seen 101% increase in the number of apprenticeships in the past 10 years. Minnesota currently has 10,906 active apprentices in the state. That's a 285% increase over the past 10 years. So the model is really catching on as people are starting to really consider what are the alternatives to a college or university education for my child. Interestingly enough, the top 5 states that are showing apprenticeship growth: California, Texas, Ohio, Illinois, Michigan. 3 of the top 5 are Midwestern states. So really a lot is happening right here in our area. The biggest sector right now that's being impacted with workforce shortages is healthcare, and we're going to hear from some wonderful women in this to talk about their apprenticeship program. But employment in healthcare is projected to grow faster than the average for all occupations through 2032, with 1.8 million openings per year. And as we're all getting older, we're probably all more concerned about making sure those positions are filled. And we tend to think of doctors and nurses when we think of healthcare, but there's so many professions involved. Everything from health unit coordinator, the practical nurse, medical assistants, medical coder, surgical assistants, All of those are in the industry, and you can learn that trade and that skill via an apprenticeship. So with that, we're going to continue this theme of healthcare, and I have the pleasure of introducing Sheri Henry and Geralynne Berg. They just built their own out-of-the-box model of an apprenticeship for the healthcare industry. They started with Essentia Hospitals in Duluth. It's now in 36 different locations throughout Minnesota and Wisconsin, and it's a 1-year pathway to board certification in one of these areas. So it's really innovative, and I'm excited for them to share it with you tonight, so I'm going to turn it over to these two. Thank you.
I'm in charge of the clicker, and I'm not the clicker. I'm Sheri Henry, and I'm with ICATAP. And what we normally do is we create apprenticeship programs for healthcare systems. So, like, if you're interested in an apprenticeship, it's like you don't really come to us. We go to healthcare systems, and everybody knows what Indeed job is, right? You go online and you look for a job. If you go on there and you see a healthcare system and you see an apprenticeship program, a lot of times that apprenticeship program, it'll say you have to enroll in ICATAP. That is us. And we work with the clinics to be able to create their own, because we felt that who knows their job better than the industry itself. That being said, my background is I was program director for medical assistants for 11 years. Jerry?
I retired out of higher education as a provost, so I spent probably close to 30 years even overseeing the medical college within our college, and spent a lot of time looking at the things that didn't work well in higher education. And I thought if I fought my way up to the top, being provost, hey, I'd have some control and we could do some out-of-the-box programming. We still had a lot of resistance to do what we're doing today.
And so basically, it's like, if you're in high school and you think, oh, I might want to be a medical assistant, or maybe I want to be a surgical tech. And you start looking around at the schools. I mean, it's expensive, it's complicated. Check on Indeed. Start looking and see if there's apprenticeships out there, because we're trying to get into more and more healthcare systems. Basically, you work with a mentor for the whole year. You work with somebody, and you're trained on the job. And you do have curriculum outside of this that you have to do, just kind of like a traditional education. You have to do schoolwork. But it's only like 3 or 4 chapters a week of schoolwork. And I don't know how many assignments your instructors are giving you now, but it's generally a lot more than that. But they realize that you're working, and you can work from 32 to 40 hours a week. And you get benefits, and you get paid. And at the end of the year, they usually give you anywhere from 90 days to a year to sit a national board. And once you pass your national board, you can work anywhere in the country. You don't have to just stay here. You can move away if that's your goal. So it opens many doors. I mean, honestly, as a medical assistant, one of the jobs that I had as a medical assistant was I worked for the military. I did EKGs on soldiers all day. Kind of a nice job. You go to a base, you find out, oh my God, a colonel is in charge of me. It's way different than being in a clinic like my normal stay, but totally fascinating. So there are multiple different occupations that you can get into in healthcare that are different than just this job. If you think of nursing, you think of surgical tech, you think of all these different occupations, there are ways into them and there are pathways in it, and you don't have to be $100,000 in debt to do it.
We also have a higher pass rate than most colleges and technical schools. To date, we have a 98% pass rate for everyone that's gone through our programming. And that's because of the model that we use. It's immersive education. Your academics are layered on top of your day-to-day skill development. And so everything that you're learning academically is immediately being applied in your workplace. In fact, when the workplace comes to us and tells us that they have, they're going to place somebody maybe in cardiology. So our med assistant will now be practicing in cardiology. So we send them to the modules. Our modules are built so that they can flip them as needed in the workplace. And that makes it always very relevant and very real time. We also had to scold somebody in one of our clinic systems because they had forgotten that the apprentice was still learning and assigned her to train a group of LPNs to be MAs. So we had to tell them, not yet, she's not ready to train yet.
Yeah, can't do that.
But it shows, it speaks to the accelerated rate that they're learning and how well they're doing in it. Go ahead.
I'm forgetting to click.
Yeah, you are.
Sorry, I'm failing.
Keep going, keep going. Yeah. And so the model that we have allows our partners, the healthcare entities, to do the hiring, choose people for their workforce. And so it's a combination of people just out of high school. It can be people looking for a second career that have already invested in the community and have families. And it may be their own employees that are looking for something different within the system. And so much of what the gentleman was talking about initially when he presented what he was doing, he was talking about the benefit. Yeah, there's a benefit. You're not, the apprentice themselves don't have that investment of all that money. They don't have to be working another job. That is their job, to be learning. They're getting full-time benefits from the get-go. They're an employee from the get-go. But the employer also invests in their own employees, and they build a more loyal workforce. If I know my employer is willing to invest in me and allow me to move up in the organization, you bet I'm going to stay there. This is my community. This is my employer. I really care about it. So they're getting probably the best of the best in this model. We also we have a little caveat for them. We have a 90-day replacement fee, and it's free. That if in 90 days, if that apprentice decides this isn't for me, they can leave. They're not out any money. They haven't. If you're in school and you're 90 days in, you've already invested a whole lot of money and you're not getting it back. You haven't invested any money. The employer can turn around and replace that person for free through our system and just start training someone else. So we did a side-by-side comparison of the curriculum used in tech schools and universities in the same program that we're operating. In many instances, we are using even the same textbooks, but what we are able to show visually is that instead of maybe 200 hours in an externship after you've finished your academics, you have anywhere from 1,400 to 2,000 hours invested in applying. Who's going to have a skill level at the end of that year when they sit their board exams that is really going to benefit them? And that's going to be the one that's applied it regularly.
How many in here are hands-on learners? How many like to read a book and read? To learn everything from a book? Okay. Well, the hands-on learners are a little bit higher, and that's what we're all about. We're all about that hands-on learner, because you're going to learn the skills hands-on on a job with a real person. And it's not a mannequin, it's a real person. So when you're learning your stuff, you're really paying attention, because you're not going to stick a needle in a real person unless you're paying attention. Probably. Done it many times.
Okay. So our partners get an opportunity to work with us. One of the things that is different in partnering with a traditional school and us is we're there not only to guide and help train the apprentice, we're there to guide and help train the people who are doing the training of the apprentice. So we've had people come to us and say, but we're not college professors. We don't think we have the knowledge and the ability to do this. They absolutely do. When I functioned in my role as academic dean and as provost, we look for people that had that master's or doctoral degree in their field of study. Well, that's wonderful. But at the same time, they likely haven't been trained as some people to do the educational role. So I also specialized when I was in the college in training teachers. So one of the things that we do is a train the trainer system. We begin it in orientation, and then for those who want to dive a little deeper and feel they need additional support, we're there to guide them all the way through the training process. It's not unusual for Sheri to get a call from the medical assistant training and say, hey, I'm trying to figure out how to teach them to do injections. Do you have any tips for me? And she's got a million of them.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing what an orange will do for you. It's like you take that on you can learn that job really fast on an orange. It's way less painful, trust me.
So we offer a whole hybrid kind of learning model that has the face-to-face learning. We have the independent learning where they're learning on their own online, and the collaborative learning, which is not only occurring in the clinic, but occurring on the Zoom sessions that are set up between the instructor and the apprentices. And our apprentices get together. They may be somebody experiencing their first day or their first week of apprenticeship, or they may be somebody who's already 10 months in. That entire model of people working together in different locations, they actually do a lot to teach each other about what's happening or what to expect next, or encourage one another.
And one of the unique things about this program is that an apprentice can start any day of the week, any week of the year. We don't have a cohort start group unless a clinic system wants a cohort, because we realize labor needs are all year round. And so we changed our model to accommodate labor needs, because that's what we're here for, to support labor. That being said, you could start with one apprentice, or you could start with 100 or 200. We're good either way. We will make it work. And we will support you as you go through the training process. The beauty of that is that when you do an online Zoom class, which I instruct some of these, that's what my Thursday nights are about. When I'm on a Thursday night Zoom, I may have somebody who's 10 months in or somebody who's just starting. I may have somebody who's in vascular surgery, or I may have somebody who's in pediatrics or family practice, or they could be in multiple different subspecialties. And I let the students talk. Like, I had one student who got all excited because, oh my God, I got to do 3 wound vacs today. And some of you are looking at me saying, what is a wound vac? And you know what? That's exactly what some of the other people in that class were doing. They were doing, what the heck is a wound vac? And so, as an instructor, my normal thing is I want to tell you what it's all about, blah, blah, blah. But I resisted the urge, and I said, to the student, I said, okay, you did this all day long. You tell the rest of the class all about this wound vac as if they're your patient and you're explaining it. And that's exactly what she did. She got all excited. She's like, oh, this is really cool. And she started to explain it. And then the other student down there, one of them was in pediatrics, and she's like, oh my God, I had this kid from hell today. She said, he was ripping out that room, he was emptying all my drawers, he was pulling the cups and throwing them on the floor, and he wasn't even the sick one, he was the healthy one. And Mom just sat there and did nothing. And she said, I really wanted to just reach out and strangle the little bugger, but I couldn't. I knew I couldn't. So I had to bring the situation under control, which is what she did, and she explained how she brought it under control. And then she explained to the rest of the class how her provider came up to her and said, Mom's one child is extremely ill. And it's completely, Mom is totally fried. Her world is completely out of control. And I'm thankful you supported her the way she needed to be supported, and we need to look at getting her more help. Which, I can tell you, my vascular surgery person wouldn't have got that whole situation because she would have never experienced it, chances are. So we do some of that that's a little bit different than traditional. And it's not just me lecturing, because trust me, I can talk and I can tell you all kinds of stories about healthcare and things that I've encountered. But sometimes the best teachers are the students themselves. Because of what they're learning, it's reinforcing what they're learning when you ask the right questions.
So our assessment, we get questioned, if not, well, often, why are you able to provide this education? You're not a school, so how do you know that things are working? Well, we use the very same assessment methods and models that higher education does. Nothing different about that. So we use provider data that informs not only what's been learned and how, but we may need to be reviewed or changed or revised. We have the opportunity without the red tape to look at things at the 60-day and 90-day mark, talk to our healthcare partners, find out that something may not be quite right for their particular unique situation, and we can adjust it immediately. And that goes with our learners too. Our apprentices are great at contacting us and telling us, hey, I don't know how to talk to the person who's doing the training. I'm having this particular issue. What do you suggest? And we're there to help them do that too. So we navigate both sides and help people come together and communicate well.
And if you are studying, because a lot of it is dependent and you're working on your own, if you hit a topic like, I don't get this. I tell you, I get text messages all the time. It's just a picture of a test question and asking me, like, why is it this answer? You know, and I'll answer them. And same with if, like, I've had people say, oh, billing and coding, what a nightmare. I'm never going to get this. Or, I can't do pharmacology math. Well, the truth of the matter is that I don't lecture on any one of these topics. I've done it for years. So literally, if you need help and you reach out to me, I can do a one-on-one Zoom with you, and I will figure out a way for you to be able to connect the dots in your brain to make it make sense.
And most of our instructors are actually still relevantly employed in their fields. So they're teaching, but they're also experiencing the very same thing the apprentices are in their workplace setting. So that makes it much more relevant to them too.
And we're going to introduce you to some people. This is Joe. Joe came into our program at 50 years old. Joe had spent 15 years working in a healthcare setting. He worked scheduling, billing, all these different jobs within the healthcare system. He hated his job. Absolutely hated it. Didn't like going to work anymore, didn't like his job. He saw the opportunity for an apprenticeship, and he thought, I'm 50 years old, am I nuts? To try to do something like this to change my life because I hate my job, and I'm making my wife miserable because I hate my job, and I need a change, but I can't afford to just quit my job, and I can't afford to go back to school. So Joe hopped into our program. He went through the program. He now works in cardiology. He loves his job. He said, I don't do the same thing every day. I meet tons of people. I feel rewarded. I love what I do. And this was such a great opportunity for me. Then the person next to him here, this is Gianna. That's Joe's wife. She started in our program yesterday. And she has worked 24 years in a grocery store. She did ordering, stocking, whatever needed to be done. She knows the grocery business inside out. She knows nothing about healthcare. By the end of the year, she'll know a lot about healthcare, and she'll get board certified.
And she's working in a neighboring organization,
Yeah,
so they're
even
not in
the
the
same
same
one as
facility.
They're in competition. They won't tell anybody that. And then, this is Ella. Ella just graduated high school last year. Ella took a medical term class after high school through the summer because she thought, oh, I think I want to be a medical assistant, so she did a medical term class through the summer. And then she enrolled into the tech school in the fall, but of course she has to take prereqs, so she was working on her prereqs to get her into an MA program. And then she was told, well, we might not run the program because I think we only have 2 students. So then she's like, now what am I going to do? And then she saw the ad for an apprenticeship, so she hopped into the apprenticeship program. The beauty of that is one of the classes that we make them take is medical terminology. Well, she's already had medical term. So she doesn't have to take medical term again because she already has it. So sometimes when you've gone to school, you take a course like chemistry or biology or something, and then you get into a program, and what's the first thing they say to you? Oh, have you taken any of these courses? And you say, oh yeah, I took that course about 10 years ago, and the first thing they say to you is, oh, you've aged out of it. You've aged out of it. We can't take that credit. You got to retake that course. Or you got to pay money and resit this course. Well, trust me, I've taken oodles of classes. The last thing I want to do is retake a class that I've ever taken before. We do not require people to retake courses.
However, we do have the course open to them. So
Yes.
if they want to refresh their learning, they get to do that anyway. So
We
if you've
accept-
had anatomy and physiology, but it's been a little bit and you'd like to refresh it, it's there and it's available for you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What if they've taken it outside the country?
We would look at the information and compare.
Yeah.
Much
Yeah.
like any college will do, they'll take a look at that information and make
Because
comparisons.
the truth of the matter is why make you take a class you've already taken and you've already spent money on taking it? We'll accept the grade that you have, but we open that class up to you.
Mhm.
So that if you get into the work world and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I forgot all my cardiology, or I forgot all my gastro, or I maybe be a little weak on this and I'm a little bit behind. You can hop in and do the class. If you want, you can do the whole class. We don't care. But we're not going to grade you on that class. We'll accept your previous grades. So it takes the pressure off of, oh my God, I got to get an A. How many in here like to get an A? I know I do.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed about those A's. It's like, oh, it's brutal. The thing too with our program, with our medical assistant program, I will speak for that one because that's my orientation. It's about 3 chapters of work a week, which if you've ever taken 16 credits at a college, you'll find out that 3 chapters a week is nothing. Like your nose is not buried 24/7 in that book. And the reason is because it's immersion education. You will see it during the day and you'll read about it, or you'll read about it and you will see it. And you get a crossover in that learning process. It sticks. Totally sticks. We also do surgical tech. And we said meet Desi. Desi was our first surgical tech apprentice. She was actually a medical assistant, who'd been a medical assistant for 5 years. She worked at was working in a hospital that literally had an ad for a surgical tech for 5 years and never got one single applicant. Not a one. And so she actually went to their HR department and said, can you do this program? Can we do this program? I want to be a surg tech. And they thought, what do we got to lose? We're paying travelers to come in and we only get them for 3 months. Where if we do this, we can have this person potentially for a long time. Most of the apprenticeships, they usually do 1 year to do the program, 1 year to do boards, and then you agree to work for 1 more year after that. Then you're a free agent to go anywhere. Education's paid for. Books are paid for.
The other thing we should mention too, in most colleges when you go, they're usually aligned with one board for the exam. We have multiple boards that we've worked with, so people have a choice because different healthcare employers require different certifications. So we've tried to work with all the boards to provide a variety that fits everyone's needs.
And basically what we did is we petitioned the national boards, because we're not a school, we petitioned them and said, review our curriculum. We will go up against any curriculum. And that's what they did. They reviewed it, and they said it met their standards, and that's why we're allowed to do it. Dental assistant, something that we're trying to find locations to pilot. It has been created, it's just a matter of finding pilot places. Other things that are on our horizon is LPN to RN. That's one of our goals to do, because there's such a shortage in this country, and the way we train is unique, and it's different, but very effective. Thank you. If you don't like your job, you can look for an apprenticeship too. You don't just have to say only the kids can do it, because it's very successful for adult learners as well as young people coming.
Now we're going to turn it over to a new friend of mine, Patrick Bolt, who's with Bühler. And Bühler is a Swiss company, a global Swiss company with its North American headquarters located in Minneapolis. And since Patrick is from Switzerland, he did ask if he could give his presentation tonight in Schweizerdeutsch, and I said that would be fine. So I'm just kidding. I think maybe 2 people here would understand that tonight, maybe 3. So we'll let him give his presentation in English. So with that, we'll turn it over to Patrick.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to start with saying thank you to you, Gina and Philip, for giving me the opportunity to talk about the apprenticeship program that we have at Bühler. My name is Patrick Bolt. I'm the Apprenticeship Academy Manager at Bühler in Plymouth. I started with Bühler 17 years ago as an apprentice myself. And am I too close to the mic? I try without. I started 17 years ago with Bühler as an apprentice myself in our headquarters in Switzerland. It was a 4-year program, a CNC machinist program. And after that, I started as a trainer. I started training our CNC machinists in our headquarters in Switzerland. Did that for 7 years, and then in 2020 I came over to the US to take care of our wonderful program that we have here. All right, so first of all, just a few slides about the company so you know who Bühler is. Has anyone heard about Bühler before? A few people. Some people that I don't know yet. That's good. Perfect. There you go. Good. But most people probably haven't. So what do? We build machines. This is how some of our products look like. Mainly for the food industry.
Sorry.
Yeah. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
There you go. Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. We build machines mainly for the food industry, also die casting machines for the automotive industry, chocolate and so on. Here's a slide of our market share. So we're big in many industries. Many people might not know us, but these industries know us for sure. So 65% of all milling solutions, for example, worldwide are being processed on our equipment. Chocolate. Who doesn't like chocolate? Nobody, right? Especially not Swiss people. 60% of all chocolate is made on Bühler machines as well. Wafers, malting, die casting for the automotive industry, as I mentioned earlier. Every second and every fourth engine was made on a Bühler machine. So we're pretty big. Worldwide, we're about 13,000 employees in over 140 countries. Family owned 100%. We've been around since 1860. And Plymouth is the headquarters of Bühler North America. We're about 1,000 people in Bühler North America. All right, also if there are any questions, please don't hesitate to you don't have to wait until the end or so, just ask. All right, I got a short video. I hope it's not too loud. Is there a volume close by somewhere? Just to make sure it's not too loud or too quiet.
So it should be.
Okay, good. So here's a video. We do a lot of tours at our facility. It's really important to us that people see who we are, where we work, how we work with each other, how the facility looks like, and so on. We can't do that tonight, obviously. But in this video, you can see where we work. You see some of the apprentices speaking as well. And you see the facility and basically like the bullet points of our programs.
The average student loan is nearly $40,000, and it takes student borrowers up to 20 years to pay off their debt. If you're not interested in falling into this trap, an apprenticeship at Bühler might be for you. An apprenticeship at Bühler empowered me to pursue my career goals while gaining valuable work experience and boosting my academic background with an associate's degree. Oh, and did we mention that you'll get a salary and benefits? And to top it off, we'll cover all of your work-related costs and tuition fees. Take control of your career today and join our globally recognized ICATAP apprenticeship program. My name is Geralynne, and I'm a first-year mechatronics apprentice at Bühler, Minneapolis.
All right, I might repeat some of the points that Jaden mentioned in the video, but that's okay. I'll go a little bit more in depth on what our program is. just a little bit of history, some bullet points from the past. I mentioned the apprenticeship program is really big at Bühler. It has been a part of Bühler's identity and culture for over 100 years. The first apprentice we had in Uzwil in Switzerland, and our headquarters was in 1915. And since then we had over 8,000 apprentices going through the apprenticeship program. And in our headquarters we got about 2,500 people to 2,800, I want to say. And 1,000 people out of them did an apprenticeship program at Bühler. So huge retention rate, and again, like such a big part of our company. All right, this is our wonderful team in Plymouth. We're two full-time trainers. It's Corey and myself. We got 3 business apprentices currently, and we got 12 mechatronics technicians. So we have 2 programs that I will talk about tonight. Mechatronics technician is a little bit more hands-on, a little bit more technical, right? They do things, they become engineers, field service engineers, so they might go to our customers, they might start up new machines, they might maintain machines, they might fix machines, things like that. So they travel around the US mainly a lot. Here in this picture, this is Gage. He's a 3rd year currently, and he's actually in field service right now for die casting, so he gets to see those huge machines. And he loves it. It's really what he was looking for. He actually started college before our apprenticeship program and noticed that that's not for him. He had to learn that he had to go back to college. We do send our apprentices as well to college, but it was a little bit different than what he did. Field service is one area there. They can become hardware engineers. We will have someone here tonight from Bühler that is a hardware engineer. Software engineer, programming our machines as well. Engineering, basically figuring out which machines do we have to have for that chocolate plant, which order do they have to go, which ones need air, which ones need what type of electricity, and so on. They work really close to our customers. And then we have our business apprenticeship, which is a little newer. We started with a mechatronics technician 3 years ago, and 4 years ago in the meantime. And before that, we started in 2012. The program has developed. It was like a Bühler self-made field service apprenticeship program, the mechatronics technician, then it has developed into the mechatronics technician program and has gotten better and better. And the business apprenticeship, as I mentioned, we started that 2 years ago with Katie. She's now our second year apprentice. And that's a little bit more on the administrative part of the business. So they get to see HR, they get to see accounting, they get to go to marketing, purchasing, and also logistics. Here's some data, some facts and data about the program. So as I mentioned, we have a 3-year program for the mechatronics technician and a 2-year program for business apprentices. What they earn $15 in their first year for all first year apprentices, $17 in their second year, and then mechatronics technicians, it's a 3-year program, they earn $19. They work 40 hours a week, which includes school. So as I mentioned, we send them to school as well to get an associate's degree at Hennepin Technical College for both. So they spend 2 days a week at school, 3 days a week at work. When they're at school, that's considered to be work. That's part of those 40 hours. So they're even not only we're paying for tuition, so not only we pay their tuition, we also pay them to go there and invest in their future, and of course in our future. They sign a commitment, 2 years more than the program, so 5-year total for mechatronics technician, 4 years total for business apprentices. They get all benefits that they're normal employees. They get all benefits that I get as well. They get all bonuses that I get as well. They get an additional bonus that I don't get. But they have to perform well at school. So based on their school grades, they could potentially make another $1,500 twice a year They have straight A's and good grades as well in the company. We write performance reports and so on. We work closely with the apprentices, so we evaluate them as well. And if they reach the maximum, it's another $1,500 twice a year. Let's talk about the timelines. Mechatronics technicians first. So 3 years. First year, they spend the majority of the year in the Apprenticeship Academy that you saw in the video, learning the basics about electronics, about mechanics. So they spent the whole time basically with Corey and I getting into their job basics about it. There's so many more things. I mean, we start also, they get computers. Forgot to mention that. So everything that is related to training is paid for. They also get their college books, they get computers, clothes, and so on. So they don't have to spend any money that is related to the training. So they learn how to use a computer. They learn how to communicate in a business, how to write emails and stuff, how to maintain their calendars and things like that, right? Things that they might not have, most likely not have been doing before that. In their second year, they start rotating within the company. They get to see all those departments that I mentioned earlier, to figure out if they're skilled in that department, if they're passionate about that as well. And that's one big reason and advantage of doing an apprenticeship program. They get to see what they really like. They don't have to make a decision when they apply. They narrowed it down to mechatronics technician, right? But they still get to see so many different fields that can be very different from each other. So they get to rotate. It says midterm exam there. I'll talk about that in a bit. So they do that rotation their second year. It's about 8 to 10 weeks in each department they get to see. By the end of the second year, they would have to make a decision where they would like to stay, right? And then they would stay the whole third year in that department, being a full-time member. I mean, full-time, they still go to school, but the 3 days that they're in, they'll work in that department, and they also will be hired by that department by the time that they finish the program. And there's a final exam as well that I'll mention in a bit. The business apprenticeship is pretty similar. It's a 2-year program though. They start rotating right away. So they leave the Apprenticeship Academy sooner. They will go through the welcome days in the beginning where we talk a lot about OSHA, a lot about communication, computers and all that, get them set up, and then we send them out right away to their rotation, such as HR, marketing, and so on. And they get to make their decision by the end of the first year. And in their second and last year, they will spend the whole year in that department and will also be hired by that department. Partnerships. This is really important. Let's talk about ICAT. And this ICAT is different to the ICAT AP. I mixed those up tonight already. So this is completely different. It looks very similar. It has 2 T's. This is the Industry Consortium for Advanced Technical Training. This is an organization found by the German-American Chamber of Commerce, and what they do is they provide German-style apprenticeships in the US. We're partnered with them since 2020, 3 years ago when we started with the mechatronics technician, and this has really elevated our program to the next level. They get a German apprenticeship degree, as Philip has mentioned earlier, so it's an international one. They get a German apprenticeship degree, the same as they get in Germany. Not the same that I got, it's really similar though, has a different name. I could, with no issues, I could work in Germany, such as our apprentices could work in Switzerland without any disadvantages. And yeah, so what do? They get that degree, but they of course have to go through the whole procedure as they do in Germany as well. They have to go through practical exams and written exams, both at the end of the second year, midterm exams, and then by the end of the program, their final exams. They're tough. It's our job at Bühler to prepare them for those exams. It has nothing to do with school either. They get an associate's degree at school from Hennepin Technical College. It's an automation robotics engineering technology degree for mechatronics technician, and the business transfer pathway degree for business apprentices. This is different. These are different exams, so that's totally parallel. And the difference is, this is, as we've heard tonight as well, it's a competency-based apprenticeship program, which makes a big difference. There are a lot of apprenticeship programs out there that are based on hours. Means there's no exams that they have to pass. Think of a school with no exams. You just have to be there and you pass. Our program is different. They have to pass those exams, and again, they're tough, but it's an added value to that, because we can also measure their success, and we can measure our success as a training academy as well. So this has been a big deal for us. It still is. We're happy that we can offer that because it really makes us really unique in this area. There are some other companies as well. There's Tim as well from Summix somewhere. There's back there. There you go. So there are a few more companies now starting doing that as well. We're really happy that that happens. All right. And then Hennepin Technical College, of course. That's where we send them to school. I already mentioned the degrees that they get there. Yeah, let's talk about the focus of our training. So they learn technical competencies, right? They have to become business apprentices. They have to become mechatronics technicians and so on. So we teach them everything they have to know to pass those exams. And of course, as well, all the needs that we as Bühler have with our apprentices. Then professional competencies, as I've mentioned earlier, they have to learn how to communicate properly in a company, how that works, right? Methodological competencies, really important. It's not always about the results. I care most of, in the Apprenticeship Academy, you know, there's a lot of time and a lot of space to make mistakes, and I hope sometimes that they do make mistakes, because you learn so much more if things don't go, you know, as planned sometimes, right? Just a matter of making sure it doesn't happen again. And most important, individual and social competencies, right? Are they able to work in a team? Do they live our values at Bühler as well? Trust, ownership, and passion, and so on. Why going through an apprenticeship program? Well, they get a debt-free education. Again, everything is paid for. The deal is you stay 2 more years. After that, technically, you're good. You know, people could leave. We do not experience people leaving after those 2 years, that they're waiting. Because the thing is, if they would leave earlier, they would have to pay us back the tuition. We don't see people waiting for those 2 years to pass and then leave the company, not at all. They might leave eventually, that's normal. But yeah, so a debt-free education. They earn while they learn, right? They go to school and they're making money. A career pathway. This is really important. They get to see the business. They get to choose, more or less, as good as we can. So far, we were lucky enough to have them choose the departments as well. But of course, we need to make sure that we can hire them as well, that we have a need for in that department. But a good example is Katie. She was on the picture for the business apprenticeship. She, in her interview, I asked her what would be your plan B, and she said she would do the business transfer pathway degree at Hennepin Technical College. She didn't know that that's exactly what we're offering in our program, and she wanted to work in marketing. When she started at Bühler, she saw marketing, she saw purchasing, all those departments, and she figured out that she would rather work in purchasing, right? So she had another chance. She might have, if it wouldn't have worked out, maybe she would have applied by now at Bühler to work in our marketing team without knowing that her passion is actually in purchasing, right? So we offer 2 to 3 more years to figure out what your passion is. And a guaranteed job opportunity, right? It might be scary for some people, especially younger people. 5 years, ooh, that's a long time. 4 years. I thought the same way, to be honest. I remember that. All teachers saying, oh, we'll go by so fast. And I was like, I'm not sure. But yes, it did. 17 years now. Wow. Goes by really fast. All right. Yeah, I mean, I could talk the whole night about it. I'll be here as well after the event to answer any questions and so on. Maybe one thing, how do you become an apprentice? We hire 6 apprentices, 6 mechatronics technicians every year and 2 business apprentices every year. So 8 apprentices total. It starts once a year, our program. It's a little bit different. That's pretty cool. You can start every day at yours. Ours is a little bit different. We start once. It's the first Monday in August of each year. Well, you can apply. It's on Indeed and platforms like that. You can reach out to us. We have flyers over there. It has a QR code as well on there. If you scan that, you get on our website. You can apply that way. You can reach out to us. You can come and see the company as well, the academy. For anyone here too, please just let me know. And yeah, so you need to finish high school. You need to be 18. That's about it. School, you need to be college ready, right? So our apprentices, they go through interviews and so on. And if everything goes well, they go through some exams with Hennepin Tech prior to the apprenticeship program. And if they are college ready for like classes like college algebra, for example, or technical writing, they can start an apprenticeship with us. Okay, good. Again, if there are any more questions, if there are questions right now, let me know. There are questions right now. Yeah.
If you take college classes in like high school, can you do it at that time because you've proven that you're college ready? Is that a thing?
They can be recognized. Yeah, it depends. But we've had people that applied that had taken classes before and they didn't have to take classes at our program. Yep.
Is there an age limit? You take any age person, and if they're not a native English speaker, is it college level English? Do you test that?
There's part of the test that I mentioned with ICATAP, with the Hennepin Technical College, is about English. It's an AccuPlacer test. I think pretty much everyone could take that. It requires 250 points at least for, I want to say technical writing is one of the classes that they have to take. That's why we need to make sure that they get 250 points for that. Most of our team right now, they're really young. However, we have people, they start at like 32, I want to say, and multiple people at like between 30 and 32, about 3 or 4 in the past. That's not an issue. We had an applicant this year that was older than that. That's not an issue. No, there's not a limit. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
Can I make a comment?
Sure, absolutely.
Hi, my
Sure.
name is Tracy Bayer. I'm the head of HR for Bühler, and I get to work with this guy, and it's great. But I will say on the English side of things, so we're an international company. 36% of our workforce right now is international folks. So you hear English and German and Spanish and Portuguese, and my CFO speaks 5 languages. Yeah, I know how mad he is depending on what language he speaks. That's true. You can tell if I said that. But so it's really an interesting dynamic, right, when you're in the workplace. And this program does focus on students, right out of high school because our premise was twofold. One is that we needed a pipeline to fill our field service engineers, the ones that wanted to travel and see the world and fix machines. And secondly is that when you're 18, why on earth are we making kids figure out what the heck they want to do for the rest of their life and throw them into college and, say good luck and spend all this money. So it's just an avenue, and I love the fact that, you've got options for different apprenticeship programs. And so Patrick and I and Omar, we spend a lot of time talking to parents and students and teachers and schools and anybody who will listen to companies about different programs like that. That's a long-winded answer to your English.
Thank you. Yeah.
I think I've seen something on the invitations for this, that part of the apprentice program is also perhaps spending some time in Switzerland, just in case, some language
That's a good point. I actually wanted to talk about that.
Requirements or opportunities.
It has not been as official as it is now for about 2 weeks. But yeah, we have a reward program as well. So not only a reward program like with money for school grades and so on, but yes, we send up to 4 apprentices every year to Switzerland. 4, that's a challenge. It's about 2 to 3 weeks, depending on their grades as well. It's really transparent. Again, this is brand new. Next speaker was in Switzerland as an apprentice. We hadn't had that back then, so it's new for you as well, Omar. It's based on their performance reports that they get in the company that we fill out there. Depending on their GPA, 3.2 is what we require, and their Part 1 exam. By that time that we send them to Switzerland, we will have the result of the Part 1 exam, not of the Part 2 exam. So that's how they can qualify for the program, right? And if all 8 would qualify to go, which will be great, of course, the 4 best, like the ones with the best grades, get to go to Switzerland.
So, but language knowledge is not a prerequisite for that one.
Swiss German?
Yeah.
They might learn a little bit.
Or Switzerland, which is not a bit.
They might learn a little bit when I have meetings with headquarter and so on. But no, it's not necessary. Like, I had English at school, what was that, 4th grade or so, like the first year. It's not that good, like the mandatory English. If you keep going, you might be pretty good in English. But there are a lot of people that speak English and so on, and it works out. I had to go through that as well. I didn't speak English that well for many years, so it's a good, yeah.
So how many applicants do you get?
Not enough.
Seriously?
I mean, we get enough, like we can fill a year, right? Like a cohort. But yeah, I mean, you know, there's open end. We would like to have to see way more. It's going up for sure, which we're happy that that happens. We do a lot for recruiting. We do a lot of presentations like this. We have recruiters at Bühler in HR. They go up to career fairs a lot. Any opportunity within like 15 miles in Plymouth. We take the chance to go there and talk about our program. They go to give presentations as well. Usually the apprentices, I usually don't go there. It's just more authentic to speak in a class as well if there's someone that has just been like a high school student. And hard to say, we get a lot of like 60 applications or so I want to say we got this year, but a lot, you know, don't qualify for it right away. You know, many reasons, not, you know, they don't have a work visa, for example, is a big reason. And then we did about, I think it was 23 interviews in February for these 8 positions. And it's been a lot less the last couple of years, also because of COVID and things like that. Outreach was difficult, right? Teachers, it's going way better. We have some really big supporters here as well. That I'm really lucky. We have some apprentices from their schools as well, and it's just not the same doing it through teams as we had to do in 2020 and 21. Now we can go out there, and also we can have people come in as we do a lot with them, and that's of course way more effective. Yep.
Can you speak about advancement opportunities past the apprenticeship, and if that 19 an hour is the limit, or you know, how does that work after you finish the apprenticeship?
Yep. So they get more than the
I
19
assumed.
after that. Absolutely. It depends in which field they are. Field service engineers, for example, make a different amount than someone in software engineering, right? But it's based a lot on like expenses and stuff. Like they're out in the field a lot. They're traveling around pretty much the whole time, right? So they get overtime, they get per diem and so on. So it's more than that. We usually adapt to the what is a good word, like the average or
The benchmark?
like for those areas, right?
Yeah, the first first job, from an apprentice is between roughly $25 and $30. And then 1 or 2 years later, depending on the department, again, hardware engineering versus software versus field service engineer. There's different perks in different areas of each, but it's roughly around that range. And then, but you are an employee the whole time. And so like the 401k adds up the whole time you're in school and going through the apprentice program. And so the lower wage is just a little bit to help us. I mean, it's an investment for a company to do this, and it's hard for us to convince other companies to do an apprentice program because a lot of us want like return on investment. What does it mean for a company today? And that's not what this is about. This is an investing into our future and how we build a workforce. So completely different model. But yeah, so there's kind of a range for you there. And then they're just regular on the merit process and promotions, however they do succeed.
And they can continue. All the credits will be, depending on where you go. But we had graduates that they got their bachelor's degree afterwards, right? And our next speaker, for example, can tell you more about that too. You could basically do that within 2 more years after the apprenticeship program. So within those 5 years commitment, you could get your college degree while working 100%. Bühler would also support you with that financially up to $5,250 a year. And Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about the challenge that the apprentices see in getting involved in the program? Like, what is the big barrier they have to get over, whether it's applying or being an active apprentice in the program?
I don't know if peer pressure is a good word, but it's not the a 4 years degree is more likely to do, right, as an apprenticeship program. It's different in Switzerland. It's 70%, as you mentioned earlier, that people do. That's the most normal thing that you do, right? It's the same as if I would have told my parents, there's a program like an American program somewhere. It might be better than an apprenticeship program, but they would be like, well, I don't know. Don't you just want to do an apprenticeship program, right? And I think many people think like that here, right? Which, you didn't close the door for a 4-year degree, as I just mentioned, if you do an apprenticeship program. You do something in between, and by the way, in Switzerland, in many industries, that's almost required. Because you get that hands-on experience. You worked in a company, you worked for a company for 4 years, right? You don't have to do an apprenticeship program. That's what the other 30% do in Switzerland. But they might struggle a little bit more in certain industries because they don't have that hands-on experience and knowledge either, right? So I think that is probably one of the things, right? I mean, all of your friends get to do all of those things that you kept hearing about. And also, not yours, but there are apprenticeship programs out there that are just not like, you can't compare it to a college degree at all, right? There's some out there, they're called apprenticeship programs, but they're like 3 months, right? Yeah. So it might also have a bad, I don't know if you experienced that as well, it might have a bad reputation with some people because they might know 1 or 2 programs are just not even as close as the ones that we presented tonight. And yeah, good question. I think those are the main ones. Let me know if there are more. And we're trying to fight against
one
those.
One follow-up question to that. Do you need to do a lot of education as a high school what apprenticeship actually means? Because like you gave the example that there's many out there which is more what I would consider an internship, like 2 to 3 months. But like the German, Swiss, or German, the model for the German-speaking countries is obviously more the model that Bühler offers, like 3 years or 2 years. Do you need to do a lot of education?
Yeah. Right, some people say, yeah, I'm familiar with apprenticeship programs, and don't get me wrong, it might be close to what we have, right? It might also be a 3-year program or so, but it's just most likely, it'll be way shorter, and as you mentioned, which I say a lot as well, something we will consider to be an internship, right? With all the benefits that they get, and they're getting paid for, and so on. I've heard of programs that 3 months, they get to do school after the 40 hours of work, and have to pay for it as well. It's like, well, what's the apprenticeship there, right? So yeah, we have to educate people like because they can be so different, right? In Switzerland, this is pretty much standard. There are 3 years and 4-year programs, depending on the field. Technical ones like the mechatronics technician is usually 4 years. You know, you can become a baker, for example, right, or a butcher, or whatever. We have a apprenticeship program for anything, for everything, and but it's the same principle. They have to go through. They have to be there for a certain amount of time as well. They have to go through exams. They have to pass those exams. They go to school, right? Dual education. So they go to school, and then parallel they go to work and get to use that knowledge, that theoretical knowledge that they gained at work to get to use that at work, and so on. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, good. Again, we have flyers over there. Feel free to grab some and feel free to reach out. And we'll continue with Bühler. I'm very proud that our next speaker is a former apprentice. He was my first apprentice, or he was in the first cohort that I had, so a really special cohort to me, that I had when I came over. He started in 2020. You can see here the picture. I hope you're not mad at me. I'm using these pictures. He started in 2020. He was also our first, or in the first cohort that graduated with ICATAP, right? We went through those exams together. It was your first exam, but it was also my first exam as a trainer. And I was at least as nervous as Omar was. I mean, that was that day that, would tell me if I did an okay job, a good job, or if I need to improve. So it was quite a journey, and they also helped us a lot developing our program. They still are. We will always try to get better. We're always learning, and but yeah, this cohort mainly, they helped us so much developing the program, and making it easier for all the new future apprentices starting with us. So yeah, he's now automation engineer at Bühler. So he's in hardware engineering, basically one of those departments that I've mentioned. And yeah, he will answer some questions. Thank you so much.
So there's no better way to sell you on apprenticeship than to hear Omar's story. So I'm going to ask him some questions. I had the pleasure of hearing him speak at a conference in Chicago, and I think by the time we're all done with you're all going to be like, I want my kid to do what Omar did. So I'm asking some questions, and so Omar, I want you to take us back to like your sophomore, junior year of high school, right? You're starting to think, what comes after high school? What's my career pathway? What am I going to do? What were you thinking at the time you wanted to do, and how did you end up deciding on an apprenticeship with Bühler?
Wow, that is something that is going to be very hard to explain very shortly. So I'll do my best to shorten it up as much as possible. But first of all, thank you, Gianna, and thank you, Patrick, for inviting me to this event. It's exciting to be here. I really like to share my experience through my apprenticeship program. So to answer that question, I would say to start, when I was a junior in high school, I started off questioning a lot about the future. That's something that I really pondered about so much because I didn't know what I would expect, because a lot can happen, right? Time to time, years can pass and it can fly by really quickly. And it did for me. Now that I'm here speaking, it's awesome to be at this point because I wouldn't have imagined that happening. But very shortly, I started thinking really deeply about what I truly wanted. When I was 14 years old, I knew I wanted to be an engineer. I wanted to be a mechanical engineer specifically. And originally I wanted to go to the University of Minnesota. I had gotten accepted my senior year of high school. And I had that trajectory. I wanted to get to that point of actually becoming an engineer. I'm like, that's what I want to do. I want to get to that point, and that's what drove me. But then, during my junior year too, and partially into my senior year, I started hearing about apprenticeship programs. Apprenticeship programs were something I never really thought about. And whenever we hear the word apprenticeship program, we typically think of dirty jobs, usually associated with negative connotations. Especially for me, I did have that stigma. which was, oh, they're just electrician or plumber jobs, or typically what is said here in the United States. And then I heard about the Bühler Mechatronics apprenticeship program, and I was wowed. That's the way I can describe it. Because I didn't know that an opportunity like this could exist. It's incredible to have something like this, because it opened up a door for me that I didn't know was possible. I chose this pathway because I knew that I had to take a risk. Everything comes with a risk. And this risk has paid off for me, because I don't want to sidetrack myself too much, but just to share a little bit about this too is, once I had decided to go into the apprenticeship program and completing it through, I actually bought a house 3 months after. I wanted to share that because I think it's something to motivate other people too as well, because if I can do it, I believe that anybody else can do it as well. And it's having that motivation and having that certainty of what you want to do. I knew from a younger age I wanted to be an engineer. And going through the apprentice program, it solidified that I truly did want to become an engineer. Except not mechanical engineer, more on the electrical engineering side, now that I'm part of the hardware engineering team. So I would say that wraps up a little bit about that for that question.
Can you tell us, how did it work? How did you find a balance between school and on-the-job training, you know, in a 40-hour week? How did that work for you? Can you just tell us a little bit more what that was like?
Yeah, I didn't find it very difficult, I would say, in my experience. I actually found it very well balanced, actually. Able to have my dedicated time for work, my dedicated time for school. It really made everything come together, especially when we would talk about something in class and then I could relate to it and actually apply it at work. So to have that key balance there already really helped solidify my time schedule as well. So I would say that, yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit more? So you've finished your apprenticeship, you're still with Bühler, and tell us, everybody, what you're doing now, school-wise.
So right now, I am a hardware automation engineer at Bühler. And currently, I am going back to school. I am going for a 4-year degree at Dunwoody College of Technology for Automation and Controls Engineering Technology. I wanted to get deeper into the mechatronics side, and I wanted to get into the 4-year pathway as well, because it opens up other opportunities as well, getting the 4-year degree. But I wouldn't have known that I wanted to get to this if I wouldn't have gone through the apprenticeship route too. So that already is a big selling point right there as well, because it opens up other areas, other passions for younger people.
And you got to go to Switzerland and participate in the training program, if I remember correctly, right?
Yes.
Tell us what that was like.
It was a great
You've never
experience.
been to Switzerland before. Had you ever been to Switzerland
No,
before that?
I didn't. But it was a rewarding experience, I would say. It was an experience that really opened my eyes to the opportunities that are out there in the world, because I would have never thought that I would have been able to go to Switzerland through my apprenticeship program. So to have that opportunity really helped sell me a lot too, that there are opportunities out there that we really need to take advantage of. Because my father always told me, you should always consider an opportunity when it's right there in your face. Because you never know, you could lose that opportunity. It might go away one day after. So it's important that we also take the risk, because sometimes we get that negative association too with apprenticeships, as I had stated. But trust me, from my experience, I can tell you guys with all humbleness that it's worth it in the end.
And one last question. What advice would you give to any families or any young people here that are trying to think, next steps and so many of us, for it's just been like, if you're going to get anywhere in life, you have to do 4 years right after high school. What advice would you give young people that are sitting here in the audience tonight?
Yeah, that's the one thing too that I've thought about very deeply as well, because if I had to give advice to somebody, now that I've been in those shoes of feeling stressed, of having to make these decisions, these adult decisions of what am I going to do after high school? What am I going to do? I would say the biggest thing is, one, for the young person, be humble. Remember that we always start somewhere. We have to start from zero in order to get to a point that we want to get to. And the way that you're going to do that is also by being disciplined. Discipline is important. It's hard, even for adults. It's really difficult. So my word there is that remember that you will have some beginning, but always look to what the goal is and focus yourself there. That'll help bring you ahead in the end.
All right, so we'll bring Omar back up at the very end if you have any individual questions for him. So thank you, Omar, and I think, right, he bought a house right after his 3-year program. If that doesn't sell you on the value of this program, I don't know what will. Besides, he's just such a wonderful young man, and I really enjoyed getting to know him. So thank you, Omar. I do want to just share a couple more companies out there that have innovative, highly successful apprenticeship programs that you might find interesting and might think, I'm going to go and research that a little bit more. So I will do this the speed version. Hey, Zurich North America, it's another Swiss company. Imagine that. Zurich North America is a global insurance company. Their North American headquarters are in Schaumburg, Illinois, and they are really trailblazers when it comes to developing the apprenticeship model here in the United States, because they highly value a very diverse workforce, and they want to meet apprentices where they are. So if you are someone, again, who I've worked in grocery for 20 years and I want to start something new, or I don't have a degree and I can't just, quit my job and go back to school, they've developed different apprenticeships for that. What's really innovative is they have two options in 2 years. They have a pathway for an associate's degree if you're coming in with absolutely no college credit, and they have a pathway for a bachelor's degree if you already have completed 2 years of college. And their apprentices, like with these other ones, they earn a full-time salary with benefits, all school costs are covered, and completion brings guaranteed job placement at Zurich. If insurance, you're thinking, insurance maybe is not all that exciting. Pardon me, Philip. But there are other careers you can learn. And again, their model is they bring their apprentices in, and for at least a year, you get to explore all these different areas before deciding which area you want to focus on. Human resources, information technology, communications and marketing. And there is learning, they have job trainers, they have support all along the way with Zurich North America. So that's definitely one worth checking out. I like this testimonial. I think it says a lot. I passed up a $20,000 scholarship to a university for this program. I can happily say I have no regrets. No scholarship amount can match the value of this program, which includes the paid work experience. So that maybe makes us pause and maybe consider just how valuable is a scholarship in the big picture compared to what you might be gaining through doing an apprenticeship through a company like Zurich. Rosenbauer, I'm including because they are an Austrian company. They have a plant actually in Wyoming, Minnesota. What they're known for is they produce electric fire trucks, and they have all kinds of skills pathways that go with that. I don't know a lot about this company yet, but I was impressed when I went to their website to see that they actually do ask, do you have German and English language skills? So for those of you who are learning German, like I have a kiddo here tonight, this might be something worth checking into. As I've done research about apprenticeships too, I can say globally, an industry that is really embracing the model is solar industry and green technologies. They have really, the shortage of solar panel installers is growing at a very rapid rate. And so around the world, apprenticeship programs are being developed specifically for the solar for the solar energy. And the last one I will mention is the Space Coast Consortium Apprenticeship Program. You will notice that their logo is half German flag, half American flag, half US flag. Those colors are in that because it's been developed along the German model. This is an apprenticeship based in Florida. It's actually the state of Florida has put together a consortium of companies and industries that are involved in the aviation industry. Their apprenticeship now are ranged from advanced machining, fiber cut, so a lot of the mechatronics, manufacturing, welding, but also they are expanding into other areas of aviation. There's a giant shortage of pilots being projected out there, and so that's another industry that's looking at how can we develop apprenticeships, and so this one is what I thought was really interesting. Here's a couple of fun facts. Average starting salary for an apprentice, $80,000. Am I selling you parents anymore yet? Average starting salary after they complete an apprenticeship program, 90% retention rate. That's how 90% of apprentices who complete their program stay with the company. And over the lifetime, an apprentice will earn $300,000 more than a colleague or someone who has not completed the apprenticeship. These are all statistics from a website that I'll show you that's from the federal government. And a couple things too, if you are here representing business or industry, the state of Minnesota has resources for companies and businesses to help start an apprenticeship program. It can be a program as small as one apprentice. They have a team at the Department of Labor and Industry. There's two programs. There's Registered Apprenticeship Minnesota and the dual training pipeline. Those I won't get into how they're different, but they both support a company with resources, funding, grants if you want to start an apprenticeship program. You don't have to figure it out all by yourself, and they're very nice people and they're eager to help. And then there's a third program that is called the Youth Skills Training Program, and this actually is grants and funding and resources available to help something like a school district or a community organization that wants to provide opportunities for young people to start to do some on-the-job exploration and training while they're still in high school. Because what we're seeing is more and more that's what students want to do. They want to start to understand what some of these careers are before they start down a certain pathway. And if there's only one thing you take away from here tonight, it's this website. It is Apprenticeship USA. It's for being a website that was launched by the federal government. It's actually very user-friendly and very well organized. You can, if you go under the Career Seekers tab at the top, there's actually an apprenticeship job finder. You can search for apprenticeship by state, by zip code, by what kind of sector you want in, and you can explore all various types of apprenticeships and the options that are there. And I go to it on a regular basis. Oh, look, Mayo Clinic is now doing an apprenticeship for surgical technicians, and kind of helps me learn what's going on in the state of Minnesota. So if you're trying to figure out, and maybe you're one of those 50-year-olds who's like, I hate my job, I want to do something different, check this out. Okay, I'll close just by saying, as I mentioned, one of the hats that I'm wearing in this is as a mom. And I mentioned I have a 13-year-old son who I made come here tonight, and he's snarling over there at me. But for you parents out there, I know you've probably been in the same boat, right? Since they started kindergarten, the stress of what school are they going to get into? What was their grades? Oh my gosh, are you keeping up with the other ones? How are you performing on these tests? And now they start high school. Are you going to do SAT prep classes? And are you taking the right classes to get into the right college? And it is exhausting, right? Any other parents know about this and the stress? Since I have really embraced, there are other options. There are other pathways. There is a way. It's not about me and my ego and what school my kid got into that I can brag to everyone else. If I really want what's best for my child, I want to find out what they're good at and what they want to do and help them do that. So I will say we need to, parents, take our egos out of the equation and think about things. If we see, ooh, technical school, what, community college, ew, right? That's our problem. We need to think differently. And that's how this model is going to be advanced. So anyway, with that, I'll get off my soapbox. Thank you.